Hi everyone, I'm Adam Mansell from the UK Fashion and Textile Association. I'm here celebrating British Textile Week in association with the Clothworkers Company and the Campaign for Wool. British Textile Week celebrates the craftsmanship, creativity and innovation of the UK textile industry, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here with Guy Hills, who's the founder of Dashing Tweed. Hi Guy.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Do you want to introduce yourself and a bit about the company as well, so that our audience can find out a bit more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, one of the benefits of the Zoom thing is you can come into my shop with me because this is where we are at the moment. My name's Guy Hills, and I was originally a fashion photographer actually for 25 years, and then I was asked to be the main photographer for Savile Row. Became obsessed by fabrics and ended up setting up my own weave-based fashion company. So as you can see, we've got a shop full of beautiful clothes, and they're all based on weave designs, which we do. So I teamed up with Kirsty McDougall, just when she left the Royal College of Art, and we set up Dashing Tweeds, which design, weave interesting fabrics and modern tweeds. And then, as you can see, we have a shop in just off Chiltern Street. So come and visit us, full of our fabulous products. And you can buy cloths, and we do made-to-measure tailoring for men and women.
Excellent. I mean, just I think I'm feeling loud in this, which is one of yours, but I mean, yours looks absolutely fantastic. I love the piping around the lapels. Looks awesome. But you said you started off in fashion photography. So, and then ended up in Savile Row. How did you make that leap from that sort of one creative industry to another?
Actually, I always had a passion for clothes, and my stepmother, my father remarried when I was about 15, and then she taught me to sew. And actually, before that, my grandmother taught me to crochet. So I was always making myself things. I just found it magic, kind of being able to make garments. And I love clothes. But then I could sewing myself up crazy outfits. And a magazine I was working for asked if I could do portraits in Savile Row. So I absolutely leapt the chance. I was terrified of actually going anywhere near a Savile Row tailor on my own, but obviously I had an excuse to go in. And I was photographing this story. It was actually it was the old and the new. It was about Henry Poole and Kilgore, which are the new creative at the time. While I was there, I bumped into a friend of mine, Andrew Bolton, who is the person at the Met, the big costume chap. And he had been speaking to this fabulous lady, Andra Rowland, and she was looking for a photographer to help market and brand Savile Row. And it all just happened. You know how those things just happen in a day. I just met Andra, and she wants a photographer, and I knew him anyway through friends for a long time. And so he just introduced us. And it was just totally, one meeting just changed my life. And I became the main kind of image maker for a newly formed company, Savile Row Bespoke, which was a marketing company promoting Savile Row. And I became their main image photographer. So I ended up just this one job then lasted about 5 years, which was fantastic.
Fantastic. Ander runs Anderson and Shepherd, a fantastic Savile Row company, and one of our UKFT members, I would like to say. I mean, we're actually going to have an interview with Kirsty later in the series, talking about the design element. But you're slightly different in the way that you operate, in the fact that you come up with your own design collections and then you commission weave. Do you want to explain how that commission weaving process and how you link the design process that goes on in yours and Kirsty's head and it ends up in some of the fantastic weavers that I know you use?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll just take a step back to when I was a photographer in Savile Row. So then I had carte blanche to go to every single tailor in Savile Row. I could just, part of my work, which was documenting and marketing it, all their fabulousness, involved me going to every single tailor. And they've got archives going back 200 years. So I could just walk into Savile Row, go down to the basements, chat to the tailors, and open these books that had 200 years of fabrics in. And I was just going, wow, these fabrics are incredible. And you think about Savile Row as being, very conservative nowadays, and the home of sort of classic English gentlemen. But looking at the archives, I realized that there was just a huge variety of cloths. And the fabrics they had at the time was nothing like the archives from especially the ones from like 1860s, really colourful tweeds. So you were just saying earlier that you think the thing your beautiful Shetland jig you're wearing is kind of colourful and a bit louder than what's around at the moment. But you actually go back into the Savile history and you realise there was such a variety of cloths and textures and colours for men. So I became fascinated by that. And part of my brilliant deal I did with the tailors was getting paid, my photography was getting paid in tailoring. So I had an opportunity to get something made every single tailor in Savile Row, which is absolutely fantastic. beyond my wildest dreams, really, at the time. But I saw the archive fabrics, and then I saw the modern fabrics, and I said to them, "Where are these interesting fabrics? And where are they?" And they said, "Oh, they don't really exist anymore. There's not a market for them." That sort of market was taken over by fashion brands, kind of high street fashion brands and other fashion brands. So you couldn't actually buy the cloth. And so it got me thinking, and I was going, "Oh, what I really want is some of these interesting fabrics." I had some other ideas because I was always wearing an old tweed jacket that I was cycling around to. I went to the University of Bristol. It just rained non-stop for 3 years. So it was like an armor having this tweed jacket, but it was a very kind of country rustic one. And I wanted to sort of, I like the quality of the sportswear element of the tweed. I wanted something for wearing while being a photographer to sort of look good. And I was always cycling around. So I had these ideas. And then I was just looking around. I went to some of the old shops, W. Bill and people, looking at their own old tweeds and looking at old Vivienne Westwood sort of fashion. And there was this real kind of divide between what the Savile Row tailors were offering and what the fashion companies with all their colour and fun and sort of futuristic ideas were offering. So I thought, but what we really need is someone who's got fabulous fabrics that I could buy, and then I could be my own fashion designer and sort of, in a way, sort of transcend the high fashion and the Savile Row, which I saw from the archives was always the case, and it's sort of been disjointed, sort of disjointed by the fashion industry, really, by the high street fashion industry. So that got me thinking. And then I was I had a studio in Camden where I was doing my photography, and I just recently got married. And about to have kids. So traveling around the world with beautiful girls, which is what I was doing as a fashion photographer, was kind of out of the question. And I was looking for some more work in London. So I thought what I'll do is look for a stylist to work with and then create my own kind of look. That's what I was keen to do. So I was going to all the art colleges just looking for creatives to work with. And I saw Kirsty's show, which was just beautiful fabrics. And actually they reminded me a bit of all the stuff I'd seen in Savile Row and the colour and very creative. I suggested that she could weave me a bit of fabric because that was the missing link. I wanted some more exciting fabric. So I said, can you weave me a piece of fabric similar to the piece she had in her show, which had these chevrons, a bit like bicycle tires. She said, I was going to try and do her accent, but I can't do it.
It's probably best not to.
I can't do this. But no, she was brilliant. She managed to find this yarn dealer in Yorkshire, and this fabulous commission weaver, Robbie Trust, was absolutely brilliant, and got a one-off piece of fabric made for me. And obviously she'd learnt loads of design at college, but hadn't learned about production. So she was very, very clever at just suddenly being able to find production. Anyway, this piece of fabric was just brilliant, and I had it made up into a suit for riding around on my bicycle, and everyone went crazy for it. They said, "Oh, you look fantastic! You look really, really good." So it was the sort of the first sniff of the drug, the addiction set in. I was going, I need more. And then I had this genius idea. I thought it was quite a good idea. If I sell, you have to have 60 meters of cloth, and I needed sort of 5 to 10 for myself. If I can sell 50 meters of cloth, then it will finance my addiction. So I said to Kirsty, "Well, it's a great idea, and why don't we set up a little weave design studio, weave these interesting cloths." I had this idea of making urban tweeds for cycling around. I had this idea of combining tech sportswear and heritage sportswear, and invented.
This is going to be my next question to you.
Yes,
you're very ahead of the curve.
That was exactly what happened, and then Kirsty, she thought it was a bit crazy, but she said, "Let's go for it." So we set up a weave design studio.
The thing I was going to mention, there's lots of focus on innovation in fabrics at the moment, and quite a long time ago, picking up on your story about cyclists, you came up with the Lumatwill.
Yeah.
The Lumatwill. Do you want to just talk a little bit about that and how it works?
Actually, I've got a red. I don't know if you can see me. I've got my little torch here. If I put it on this, there it is. Can you see that?
Yeah, perfect.
It jumps out. That's just a bright red one, but it's got reflective threads in. But the idea was that I was cycling around. I had this first suit made, and I had it sort of cut for being on my bicycle. I looked at actually. It's amazing how the innovation of clothes was very much in the area of the individual. They'd think of things, they would look at magazines, they'd go to their tailor, and the tailor and the individual would work together to create some interesting things. So you actually look at the dawn of cycling, and there are all these invented cycling suits with different features and things. So it's quite funny doing that research. So I was doing that research for the first cycle suit I had made. And then my wife was saying, you're a young father now, you've got responsibility. And and you need to wear a high-vis yellow, you know, sort of jacket over your beautiful Savile Row suit. And I said, no, no way, I'd rather be dead. And she said, I'd rather you weren't. But it got me thinking. I thought, well, hang on, why can't we weave some 3M high-vis fabrics into the tweed? And I wasn't beholden to any idea of traditional tweeds. I was all about innovative fabrics, but I was very keen on the tailoring aspect, the different tailoring cuts, and making fabric that could be tailored and was modern. So I said to Kirsty, we can try experimenting with this, and with the loom, which we got in our studio, she experimented. And then spoke to Robbie up in Scotland and the commission weavers, and under a little bit of duress, he was brilliantly patient. He experimented with it as well. And then we created what we call lumatwill, exactly, which is reflective tweed. And the idea was improving the sportswear idea of tweed. We had a Teflon treated as well. So I made a cycling suit, which was absolutely perfect for going around, and it just had these fine pinstripes of reflective thread, but only when there was a direct light, like this sort of torch or with car headlights was driving, did you see it. So it was quite a good innovation. And then everyone really liked it. And I was using my photography contacts to promote the brand I was creating, because I wanted to obviously sell my cloth. And I spoke to this girl who was a stylist I was working with, Kimbara Balfour, and she wrote about me on Daily Candy. It's a long time ago, 10 years ago. And Converse, which was owned by Nike, read about it. And they were really excited by the idea of sort of modernizing tweed. And totally out of the blue, asked if we could do a collaboration with them, which was brilliant.
Fantastic. One of the other areas where you've been well ahead of the curve, and without sparing your blushes, without you probably thinking about it, is you're working all the way back down the supply chain to the sheep. So I'm wearing, as you said, a Shetland jig, one of yours, which the flock was from Scotland. I know you do a lot of work, and you've got a new collection out now where you've been working with a flock of Swaledales.
Yes, Swaledales with John Taylor in Lancaster. Yes.
What's it like working with English wool, the English clip, as opposed to that normal sort of New Zealand, Australian merino and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, that's kind of quite interesting, because it goes back to the authenticity of the fabrics that I was seeing when I was looking at the archives in Savile Row. And the reason why I became kind of fascinated and loved tweed was it's such a robust material. And the really robust ones were made out of British wool. And you see the Italians who were sort of copying the English designs, but they wanted it all made out in very fine merinos and cashmere. And it kind of was all floppy. So it kind of lost its robustness and its essence. And when you had fabulous suits made in Savile Row by tailors like Huntsman, then you'd have all the kind of tailoring and the canvassing, and you really felt like you were wearing armor. So the quality of the British wool, which, without beating about the bush, is a bit scratchy. I actually just, grew to love the handle of it. And then actually speaking to other people, you realize that it's all to do with the kind of marketing and what people think of it. The Japanese, they love authenticity, they love beautiful handcrafted pots and things, and they really kind of absolutely value the feel of the British wool. So I was always keen on that. And then personally, I just quite like making things myself. So I was always interested in the process, because I was feeling that when you actually learn, when I was looking at the tailors and looking at the people sewing and cutting, you actually see that they've got some patterns that they don't even sort of realize is something that would interest people. They're just things they've got lying around, and then you can use them and go, that's fascinating, the circular cut of riding breeches, that's something I could adapt and make modern. So I was very interested all the time in actually looking down that chain and finding out more about the sheep and the staple and the quality. And then we started doing tours of mills. Actually, that was also through Savile Row, and I'd leapt at the chance when I was being paid to go and photograph a mill, and then asked them all the questions. Actually, I remember one mill, I was just fascinated. They laid out all the fleeces which had already been sorted, but then if they had a proper lab, and they pull out every single tiny little piece of wool, and they line them all up, and they note the staple and the micron count. And that I did a science degree, actually. I did a biology degree, so I found all that absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. You mentioned how the Japanese love the authenticity and the story. I mean, you've got a shop in the centre of London, and a lot of your clients are British guys and women as well. But how important is the fabric element, the Britishness of? I mean, your designs are quite out there in comparison to most suiting companies. But how important is that traditional story about UK manufacturing to your clients?
Yeah. Well, the designs are out there in comparison to the very dull bits of the fashion.
Absolutely, it wasn't a criticism.
Wiped everything out, but the more you read about the kind of history of fashion, it's fantastic. But going back, you realise that the men have been really missing out. So that's part of the out there designs, you know, bringing something back. But no, your point is, I think actually it's increasingly important. I think now, actually, it's really interesting. I was speaking to my wife and walking the dog last night about the new world, and I was saying, you know, how Dashing is going to do extra well, because sustainability, provenance, that is exactly what people want. And it's very interesting if you, well, as you know, the high street's absolutely being devastated at the moment. I read my Drapers, a number of kind of brands that are going down every week is you know, is crazy. But then actually look at those brands, you think actually they're saying one thing and they're not doing what they say, and the ones that are suffering are not, or don't have an authentic story. So I really think that actually the authenticity is what people are going to really value. And the collaboration we did, which is a really fun design. But this is a flock of sheep which I watched being shorn by John Taylor. So it's just brilliant. So we've got photographs of it all, and then people can know this has never left the British Isles. And it's got a great body. It's got some Kempi yarns in, so it's kind of you know, it's substantial cloth, but really good. But actually, we've also got some other British wool ones, which are you know, not such crazy designs. Yeah. But I think the authenticity of where the fabric comes is becoming much more important for people.
Great. As someone that's been, again, unwittingly, I imagine, at the sort of forefront of the development of design and the textile industry, where do you see the industry in the next 10 years?
Well, I think actually this is just the beginning, because I know I was just saying about brands collapsing because they haven't got authenticity, and I think that's what people I was talking about how the Japanese kind of love the story and the genuineness, and they love Scotland. So obviously they're incredibly sophisticated. So I think the customers are going to become increasingly sophisticated, and actually half the thing of the being stuck at home is you've only got yourself to please. So you just want to wear clothes that you really love. I mean, some people may be happy just sitting around in you know, really rubbish nylon pajamas, but for myself, to make me feel good, you actually want to wear something that you actually has a story you really love, and you know, even if it makes you feel like you're the Great Gatsby one day, or you're feeling like a roguish gentleman the next, or whatever it is, you know, clothes, real clothes made out of real fabric with a real story. Well, personally, they just make me feel fantastic. So I think that's going to be what other people are hopefully focusing on, and so now actually go and seek out, because you do have to. It has to be a bit more of a interest and a hobby, because you're just being sold shit basically if you don't make any effort. And so, but as soon as you make a bit of effort and you have a bit of interest, then you can seek out the story of the fabrics and the quality, and then the more you have a story, the more you value something.
That's fantastic. Guy, thank you so much indeed for your time. I mean, you're a huge ambassador for the industry. So for more interviews, do head over to ukft.org and follow #British Textile Week on social media for more. There's lots of stories and trends and tales about the UK textile industry. But for now, Guy Hills from Dashing Tweed, thank you very much indeed.
Fantastic, pleasure. Thank you. Thanks so much.